Hi everyone, this is Matt.
And this is Liz. And today we're going to talk about all the reasons that hold you back from delegating work and how this is actually hurting you and your results in the company, and also what you can do about it.
Yeah, that'd be great. So delegation is such a big topic, right? And the reason why I think it's so important is that we all have 24 hours. So that means that there's a natural cap to how much we can do, how much we can work on, but also what we should be working on, because you can't learn everything. You only have 24 hours, and you shouldn't be learning, everything and anything. And in that way, you can focus on what what you're good at, your strengths. So delegation really is important to make sure that you leverage time, leverage other people's knowledge, and work on your own strengths.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like for me, delegation is really about, it's one of the key strategies to focus on what matters most.
Yes.
Like both in your business and in your life. Because if you focus on what matters most in your business, that's really what's going to get you results. And that's what's going to get you to achieve your goals and ultimately the success that you want, right?
Yes.
And so the same thing is in your life as well. Like if you focus on what actually is truly important to you and what brings you joy, that's how you're just going to be fulfilled and happy.
Yeah.
And so delegation actually allows us to outsource things or just like hand off things that are not, they might be important, but someone else can do them.
Yeah.
Or they're just not as important, but still need to get done.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really like one thing that you added, because we said like with delegation, you can, so other people can work on things that you're not good at or things that you shouldn't be working on. But also one thing that you said is you can enjoy the fruits of your labor because someone else is working on what you shouldn't do. So you've got, it's really a win-win-win all for yourself, right? So it's really important because you can multiply your time and what you can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what do you think are some of the reasons why, or what kind of work should we delegate?
Well, it really depends on your stage at the moment. Some people don't delegate anything, and other people already have a team, and maybe still don't delegate anything. So, it really depends on the complexity of your life and work, I would say, right? The main thing is people focus sometimes. It's very easy because it's really uncomfortable to delegate, especially something that you've done for a long time. You go like, I don't want to let go. Because then what happens is that you either jump and give that to someone else and the responsibility is theirs, but you make it clear, this is what I want, this is how you deliver it, this is how we measure it. But if you don't, you just give them the task, but the responsibility stays with you, right? And I think that's where that's the trap of delegation most, a lot of people fall into. They go like, it's like hiring more arms and you end up having 6 arms and 1 brain. And it's just more difficult, it's more stressful.
Yeah.
Because you have more things to take care of and think about, but it's just you, it's still you, right? So real delegation is like, no, actually the entire task and the critical thinking goes to someone else. Whether it's a process, it could be like, okay, maybe the other person, they don't have the tools to actually understand what's a success or not, but here's a checklist that does it for you, right? Or it could just be like, okay, no, here's how you can critically assess it, and it's your responsibility to understand whether it's good or not. So I really think that going all in delegation is important, because otherwise it can be really, almost traumatic.
Yeah. And I think that there's a key difference between what you say, like the real delegation, and what's the, like, what some people just think of outsourcing, where it's just, and that's actually like usually the first step, funny enough, like what I recommend most of the entrepreneurs I'm working with is find something that's really like manual and repetitive and just create a process, and then you can outsource that. You can outsource that to a VA or to an assistant, or maybe you're outsourcing your customer service. But that's very different from true delegation, like you said, because that true delegation is really giving the entire responsibility and saying like, okay, this is the goal and you go and figure it out. Obviously I'm going to support you, but you go and figure it out.
Yeah. So I worked with this client who had, I think the team was around 5 or 6 people. And the thing is, no one on the team knew what they were responsible for, what they were delivering on. And so the thing is, the CEO was spread thin all the time, trying to understand and assess for every person. But the thing is, no one was empowered to actually say, okay, this is how I do it, this is the work that I do. So everyone was dependent on the command from the CEO, was like, do this. and they would do it. But it might not be good enough because they didn't know how to assess it, right? So it's so important to just go all in and empower people when you delegate.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so now that we know what true delegation means,
Mm-hmm.
what are some of the things that you've seen holds people back from really truly delegating things?
Well, I think one of the main scripts is maybe I can do it better, I can do it faster, right?
Yeah.
And
Let me just go and do it. Like, I can do it in 5 minutes, right? I don't need
Exactly.
to, like, give it to someone else.
yeah. And sometimes also the fallacy is I need to train someone else that's going to take me a day or two, whereas I can do it in 1 hour, right? But that's easy to debunk, because if you say, like, it's going to take you 1 hour, if you do it 20 times, that's already 2 days. So, you're just front loading some of the work and then you're done forever.
Yeah,
So, you know.
yeah, exactly. So it's really, and what's hurting you if you really have that belief, right? If you always believe I can do it better, I can do it faster, it's in the long run, you're staying stuck because you still have only your 24 hours.
Exactly.
And you can't add more things. You can't work on more important,
Yeah.
more strategic projects because you're still doing everything better
Yeah.
and everything faster, right? So like instead of investing maybe like a day or two to train someone and then get it off your plate in the long run, you're just like keeping it on your plate forever.
Yeah.
And so you're just like keeping yourself stuck in your
Yeah.
business.
Yeah. And really, like you said, it is about those 24 hours. Let's assume that, you are the best person at everything. And that's never the case, right? But let's just assume that that's the case. Well, you can't do it all because you only have 24 hours. So you still have to delegate, even if someone is not as good as you. So you can work on those high impact strategy things. Yeah, that's a really important one. And I think that sometimes another thing that holds people back from delegating, and maybe outsourcing as well, is the cost. Especially if it's a business that's going from a one man band, a one person band to just growing a little bit. Sometimes I go like, yeah, but my time is free. I can do it in 2 hours and it's not going to cost me anything, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if I give it to someone else, it saves me a couple of hours, but it might cost me, I don't know, anything from $100 to $1,000, $2,000, right? And what the problem with that is that they are giving their time a value of $0, right? But then they want to create a business with their time, and you'll never be able to. If you value your time at zero, how can you create value with that time? You just can't. Right?
Yeah.
The mindset shift is both in the fact that by doing that you can work on high impact, high value activities that give you more money, but at the same time you give your time more value, and then that's a mindset shift that allows you to actually go and do it.
I love that. I really love that. And it's also like an investment, right? Like me
Yes.
hiring someone and investing that money so that I can take things off my plate.
Yeah.
It's an investment because it means that I can drive other projects forward.
Yes.
And I can just drive the company forward, right? It's really like an investment.
Yeah.
It's not an expense.
Yeah. And the key here is that you can make more money per minute. You can't have more time per minute. You just have 1 minute per minute, right?
Yeah.
So that's it. So really, if you spend money to free up some of your time, all you have to do is generate more money. So you free up that time to focus on other things. And I remember speaking to someone who runs a podcast a couple of weeks ago. And they were saying, like, I do all the editing. And I said, why do you do the editing? Like right now, you are, I think they bill something like $200 an hour or something like that, right? And I said, if someone else edits your podcast, you're probably going to spend $50 and it's going to save you 3 to 4 hours. That's going to save you $600, right? And it's only going to cost you 50 to 100. Well, that's a great deal. I'm gonna spend $100 to get 600. Yes, please, right?
Yeah.
And when you see it like that, it's much easier. It's just that sometimes we see time as so ethereal that it's difficult to give it value.
Yeah, that's why it's a lot easier if you're a coach. So if you actually charge your clients per hour, right? And then you can clearly, because then you have a clear opportunity because you're like, okay, if I'm saving 5 hours of my time editing a podcast, I can coach clients 5 hours long and make like $1,000 or something.
Exactly.
Like, so that's that I think that makes it easier. But
if you don't charge per hour, I have an exercise I really like to use, which are called the dream rate. So what you do is you think about, okay, this is what I want to, this is the next milestone in terms of revenue I want, either for myself or for the business. You can decide it. It really depends on the stage of your business. If it's a big business, it'd be more for you. And then what you do is you say, okay, this is how much I want to make per year. This is my next step. Let's say that it's $100,000. Let's make it round, right? And then you say, okay, next year I want to take 65 days off. That means 300 days on, right? Every day I want to work 5 hours or 10 hours and be productive for 10 hours. Now what you do is you multiply the 300 days times 10 hours, that's 3,000. You take your 100,000 per year, you divide it by 3,000, you've got your hourly rate.
It's just the hourly rate, based on your salary, the salary that you want,
exactly.
right? And obviously, like I like what you're saying with think of the salary that you want, because you need to be the person, you need to have that identity and that mindset of the person who's making
key point
in order and take then the actions in order to actually get there, right? So that's really good. There's one more thing that I think like really holds people back from delegating. I think it's that fear of losing control, which is sometimes also somehow connected with like a slightly different fear of becoming like useless in the company, like kind of replacing yourself, which is interesting because I think, especially when it comes to replacing yourself, if you as a founder can hire so well that you're actually replacing yourself, I mean, that's amazing.
Yes.
Then you're running a successful company and everything runs by itself.
Yeah.
Right?
What's the antidote to this thinking?
It's really like wanting to be replaced, like thinking of success as the company is reaching the goals and growing without me doing all the work.
Yeah.
Like the more I can offload and it's still successful, it's actually more successful, the better, right?
Yeah. So I guess like your company and your purpose are greater than you are. Right? And then also you can evolve with the company. So it's an opportunity to keep growing and then say, I'm going to get to the next level as a company and as a person, as a CEO, as a founder as well. Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah. And that coming back to the fear of losing control, right? That's a slightly different topic. It's more so, and that's actually, I think, to an extent, a real fear, because some people make that mistake of they're delegating and they just say, like, you go and do it. And then they don't follow up with the person, and there's no weekly meeting, and then they don't define goals together, and then they wonder, and then they're like, I hired this person full time, and it cost me a lot of money, and like, it's a month later, or 2 months later, and like, nothing happened, right?
Yeah.
So, delegating doesn't mean you lose control. Like, you actually need to stay in control by really making sure that whenever you're delegating a project or an entire area of responsibility, make sure the person knows what are the goals, like how is success going to be measured. And then have systems of accountability, like have a weekly meeting, have a tracking sheet where you're going to track the metrics or whatever makes sense for that project, right? And regularly check in with the person.
Yes.
And make sure they have everything they need, right? I mean, that's your role, like making sure they know what to do and they have everything they need to get there.
I really like this point. It makes me think that as a leader, when you delegate, when you have a team, really, it's a big shift, because now you're not only responsible for what you do, you're responsible for what other people do.
Yeah.
But also you're responsible for whether they can do it or not. You know, like if they deliver or not, it's your responsibility, but also if they're able to deliver or not, it's your responsibility as a leader. So it's much greater than you. It is uncomfortable, but yeah, I think the rewards are so big and they're greater than you are. So it's definitely, it's a great way to explore and also to expand your 24 hours, like we were saying earlier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What can people do to delegate in a more effective way from today?
From today onwards. So I would really say first is always change your mindset. Like you need to know what are your underlying fears.
Yeah.
Is it fear of losing control? Is it fear of becoming replaceable? Is it fear of not getting things done fast enough or good enough as you want to? So really knowing what's holding you back on a mindset level, and then working on that, changing your mindset first. And then delegating effectively in a way that making sure people know what are the goals, how is success going to be measured.
Yes.
Having systems of accountability, weekly meetings, report cards, whatever that means for you. And also making sure that you're always providing them what they need to make it happen. With knowledge, resources, information, like everything they need, to make it happen. Yeah. And that's how you delegate effectively. So mindset first, and then making sure the goals are there, and making sure there are systems of accountability and providing them with everything they need.
Yeah. That's the recipe, guys. So
yes.
Liz has just given you a recipe to delegating really effectively. Make sure you take action. This has been Liz and Matt, and we'll see you in the next video.
Bye-bye.